The subject of animal danger is complex, and we sometimes misunderstand nature's signals. The howl of the wolf has for centuries made humankind cringe with fear. It's ironic that no human fatality has ever been recorded in North America from a wolf. Yet the gentle-looking deer, like this graceful whitetail, account for over 100 human deaths each year. There are a variety of reasons why animals are dangerous to humans and to other animals as well. I'm Marty Stalford. Join me. Let's separate fact from phobia as we explore dangerous encounters. Territorial markings, like these grisly claw scratches, are a sign to all those who trespass that they do so at some risk. I should have been more attentive to the warnings. When we are careless or unheeding, we can be more than surprised. And there is only one animal that can hope to survive a fight with a grizzly bear: another grizzly. This battle is over a female. Sometimes it's over territory. But whatever the reason, they are not struggling to the death. Their combat is fought according to ritualized rules that all bears understand. When one gets the upper hand, the other surrenders. Animals are dangerous to humans in large part because we don't understand their rules. Sometimes we think we've trained them to obey our rules. As this news video clearly shows, it's a dangerous and foolhardy assumption. Grizzly attacks on humans are rare, but these medical photos show the power they wield. Even experienced handlers, like these scientists tagging a tranquilized wild grizzly, can be surprised by their ferocity. These naturalists escape without a scratch. Some are not so lucky. In Montana, a game warden is relocating a nuisance bear to the Bob Marshall Wilderness Area when the bear turns on him. The bear is killed with a pistol shot from the warden's gun. The warden fares better, suffering a broken leg, cuts and bruises. Some days as a game warden are harder than others. It is common to equate dangerous animals with the male of the species, but when a mother of any animal, human or otherwise, thinks she is protecting her young, look out. It's autumn in Alaska. Winter is fast approaching, and the black bears are preparing for hibernation. With poor vision, the bear must rely on its keen sense of smell to detect distant objects. This mother bear has just caught the scent of two wildlife watchers, one with a camera recording the scene, and one with a rifle for protection. Because her cubs are nearby, she is particularly watchful.
She's behind the tree. I got her.
Stay with her. There she comes.
Follow her. She's coming at us a little, though.
She's charging, man.
Okay, get your gun ready.
I've got it ready. I won't shoot unless she gets too close.
Okay, don't shoot. I want to send her as long as you can. This is great. Here she comes.
Josh, she's coming fast. Oh,
Don't shoot.
no.
Shoot, shoot, shoot.
What happened now? That scared her. Scared her.
Well, I'm still filming her. I don't know what you're doing. I'm filming
I
her.
was about to run.
Stay right on her.
I think she's going to turn around. I hope she doesn't come
She
again.
keeps coming. I'll leave the camera running.
All right.
We're out of here. We're the cubs.
Behind the trees, I think.
She charges to protect her young because of the perceived threat, whether it's real or not. A similar perceived threat is played out with another species of dangerous animal in Anchorage. During a harsh Alaskan winter, with its deep snow, many animals starve. So some of them wander into town, like this moose and her calf, to find food. What happens next on this home video looks like a calculated attack. Seems to be random violence is anything but. The moose had been harassed for hours by students throwing snowballs. The female became so agitated that a man innocently walking by was stomped to death. We are supposed to be the intelligent species, but sometimes we forget to act like it, and innocent bystanders pay the price. 80,000 elk live in Wyoming's forests, and I approach these 1,000-pound bulls with caution. But this is not their mating season, and I am not encroaching on their territory, so they don't seem the least bit aggressive. My horse, Buck, does not share my confidence.
Calm down, boy. Hold it. Hold it. Hold it. Oh, Buck. Oh. Good. You're not gonna hurt you.
It's not unusual to see bulls away from the cows. They lead separate lives much of the year.
Let's go. Come on, Maggie.
As unconcerned as these bulls are about my presence, the story is quite different with a herd of female elk and their young in Yellowstone Park. Crew member David Huey is about to learn an important lesson about the motherly instinct. In an attempt to get back to where we are filming, David takes a shortcut. He's been around animals long enough to know better. If you think that a grizzly bear can be mean, you've never come across a mother elk defending her calf. The cow sounds a warning to the other elk and to David by grinding her teeth.
Hey, whoa! Uh-oh. Uh-oh, whoa. Whoa.
David barely pulls off a bluff.
Whoa! Whoa!
As fair warning for all of you who think these docile-looking elk are friendly and approachable, they are not. Don't ever approach wild animals this way, especially a mother and her young. It's a mistake many people make in Yellowstone. The animals seem tame and gentle, but looks can be deceiving. As these home videos show, even the awesome bison seems docile enough to pet.
Point to the buffalo. Where's the buffalo? Where's the buffalo?
But these are not predictable creatures. They are wild animals in a domesticated setting. Some visitors are tempted to get just a little closer to these marvelous beasts. But when you see one paw the ground, like this bison behind the tree, beware. This tourist was fortunate. He escaped with only a gash in the leg. But he can confirm that even though wildlife looks harmless, it is still wild. One factor in making wild animals dangerous to humans is the friendly and caring act of feeding them. People love to feed wild animals. It gets them close to these fascinating creatures. But today, the sheer volume of people who do this has taught the animals that we are a wonderfully easy source of food. Usually, animals must work hard to survive. When we make it easier for them, this closeness comes at a cost for both the wild animal and for us. As these animals cease to fear human contact, they become more and more destructive and potentially dangerous. At this cabin, a well-meaning occupant regularly feeds the black bears which inhabit the area. These are big bears with big appetites. And once they have eaten the easy food and are still hungry, their keen sense of smell leads them right to the source, inside the cabin.
Get out! Come on! Go!
bears finally give up and go looking elsewhere. Not all dangerous animals are large. Some of the most deadly are small. The very sound of bees can send people ducking for cover. This bear's thick fur coat protects it from stings, except around its eyes and on its nose. It's ironic that this black bear poses less of a threat to humans than the bees it is enduring. Bees kill about 50 people a year, the second deadliest killer among animals. Except for allergic reaction, it's not the single bee sting that makes these insects so dangerous. It is the sheer number of stings they will inflict. Except for intrusions like these, honeybees are not usually very aggressive or tenacious. That may be changing. Enter the Africanized bee, the killer bee. In recent years, the killer bee has migrated from South America into Texas and, unless stopped, will continue to swarm into other states as well. These Africanized bees are called killers because they are 10 times more aggressive than the ordinary honeybee. Their vicious swarms can result in thousands of stings. Along the rocky coast of the Pacific, sea meets land in a rush of timeless beauty. And under the sea, a whole new world. But great danger also lurks here, sometimes not where you'd expect. The fragile-looking jellyfish injures large numbers of divers each year. The killer whale, on the other hand, for all its size and power, is, for the most part, harmless to humans. It usually dines on these playful pinnipeds. Elsewhere in the shallows, a creature lurks that makes divers and swimmers more than a bit cautious: the shark. Even its name conjures up dark images. Sharks are unpredictable creatures. If a shark is not hungry, it may completely ignore potential prey. Or it may take a bite just to see if it is hungry. Of all sharks, the most deadly to humans, as well as to seals, is the great white. Over 20 feet long, its powerful jaws studded with rows of razor-sharp teeth, there is no more menacing creature in the world. The largest flesh-eating fish in the sea, it rivals the killer whale as the #1 eater of seals. But the great white shark is often a man-eater by mistake. To the shark, a seal is a meal. And from a shark's eye view, a person on a shorty surfboard looks a lot like a seal. Blood-stained surfboard is found off the coast of California. Sometime later, the mutilated body of a 24-year-old surfer clad in this wetsuit is washed ashore. one more victim of this awesome underwater predator. Far from the hunters of the sea is one of North America's largest land predators, the mountain lion or cougar. Its preferred food is larger hoofed animals like these bighorn sheep. Cougars regularly hunt these majestic animals, stalking, then ambushing their prey. An elegant stride and lightning-fast speed have made it a most efficient hunter. The swift, healthy ones often escape. The sick or lame are usually singled out for pursuit. This cat does not kill for sport, but for food, and what it cannot consume right away, it buries for later. Development of wild lands has made its food increasingly scarce, and has forced the cougar closer to the animal it fears most, the human. Whether just in search of a meal or trying to protect its shrinking territory, some cougars have boldly dragged dogs from porches and have even attacked joggers and skiers, mauling and sometimes killing them. This lucky man might have gotten more than a scratch, because recently there has been a marked increase in cougar attacks and killings of humans. We all need to be cautious in cougar country. Although the sight and sometimes the very thought of spiders scare many people, most spiders seem more dangerous to humans than they are. But a few species do live up to the spider's reputation. Drop for drop, the venom from this black widow is more powerful than the rattlesnakes and accounts for most of the medically treated spider bites. But with some awareness of their nesting spots, such as under lumber piles, we can avoid the shy creatures Despite their beneficial role of controlling the insect population, we just can't seem to befriend the beast. Maybe it's the furry legs and belly, or the multiple eyes, but there is something about these arachnids that makes us shiver. Like the lightning speed of this wolf spider. The wolf spider's aquatic relative, the diving spider, has strong jaws for gripping and 8 eyes for seeing prey in almost any direction. It has adapted the land spider's hunting techniques to its watery habitat. It waits patiently at the water's edge to spot prey below. It injects the minnow with poison and then pulls it up on shore for a seafood dinner. One of the deadliest of all creatures is also one of the smallest and oldest. $100 to 200 million years ago, this creature emerged from stagnant waters and began to kill. It has managed to kill more people than all the wars in history. It is the mosquito. It kills by picking up deadly diseases from one animal's blood and inadvertently injecting them into another. The mosquito tracks us down by sensing the carbon dioxide from our breath. Then, using 2 tiny saws, it breaks past the skin surface to the life-giving blood below. I don't have to look for mosquitoes. They always seem to find me. But not so for the larger creatures. This traditional swamp boat is called a pirogue. It's the best way to navigate here, and to quietly approach animals like this alligator snapping turtle. It's named for the alligator-like ridges on its back. But it's the real alligator I'm looking for. There is no question of this ancient creature's danger. It attacks a dozen people a year in the United States, but only when agitated or very hungry. I don't plan to be a meal, so I keep my distance. The American alligator is the largest of our reptiles. Its various sized teeth are only for seizing and holding prey, not for chewing. A group of hungry gators considers this nutria as a possible meal. This large aquatic rodent is common in the marshes of Louisiana and spreading rapidly. But not if these gators have anything to say about it. night falls in the swamp, it's all the more hushed and haunting. Some men brave the dark, even with the danger lurking out there. Raw liver is attractive to a hungry catfish. But catfish are not the only creatures lured by this bait. They keep their distance. Humans are still to be feared. Fortunately, most alligator attacks are not fatal and can usually be avoided, unless the gators are very hungry. As the night wears on, the alligator's hunger grows, making them more bold. Tired from a long night of fishing, the angler is less aware and less cautious than he should be. Had he seen what took his catch, he might have been better prepared for what was to come. Alligators can be aggressive, but common sense and appropriate caution will greatly minimize the chances of such an attack. Of all reptiles, snakes are the most feared and misunderstood. Snake dens, like this one in Canada, look to many people like their worst nightmare come true. Reptiles are cold-blooded creatures. Their body temperature depends completely on their surroundings. Many snakes can survive winter only by hibernating in caves where the temperature stays above freezing. As springtime warms the rocks around limestone sinkholes in Manitoba, the red-sided garter snakes that winter here emerge by the thousands, more snakes than can be seen at one time anywhere else in the world. Even though these garter snakes are not poisonous, our tendency is to destroy any snake. These reptiles have always had a bad name. Are they just scaly monsters, ugly at best and dangerous at worst? Even the mention of the name, snake, can paralyze some people. They cannot separate the creepy but beneficial from the creepy and harmful. One of the most dangerous North American reptiles is the deadly rattlesnake. It accounts for over 10 human fatalities a year. Animals, too, like this careless peccary, are well aware of the rattler's bite. Rattlesnakes evolved during the Pleistocene era, the age of giant mammals, when horses, camels, and bison roamed the earth. The rattle evolved as an alarm bell, which would drive away creatures that might have trampled the snake. This wildlife watcher is engrossed in his hobby, observing the birds and plants of the Arizona desert. Rattlesnake bites resulting in injury or even death are sometimes the result of our lack of awareness. When striking a human, the rattlesnake regulates the amount of poison it injects. This venom secretion evolved as a method of securing food, but in the case of humans, the bite is the snake's attempt at self-defense. A facial pit, located behind the nostril, detects objects with a higher temperature than their surroundings. This adaptation helps snakes locate and strike at warm-blooded prey. Unfortunately for this hiker, diamondback rattlesnakes do not always warn their victims. Fortunately, rattlesnakes often strike without injecting any venom. Even if they do, most rattlesnake bites are not fatal when treated promptly. The rattlesnake bite in this medical photograph is less than an hour old. But these other photos graphically illustrate what happens if venomous snake bites are left untreated too long. Focused on our own fears, we often forget that dangerous encounters are usually between animals themselves, and often in surprising ways. Among the dry scrub of California is the deadly Pacific rattlesnake. The sound of its rattle does not frighten its archenemy, the California banded king snake. The predatory king snake seizes the rattler and begins constriction. The tenacious rattlesnake does not give up its life easily. Even after death, its reflexes can still be quite active. In fact, humans have been bitten hours after they thought they had killed a rattlesnake. All snakes are carnivores, but few species have the skill or necessary antitoxin in their blood to attack and devour a rattlesnake. It's no wonder they were given the name king snake, although coach whips also dine on their poisonous kin. The king snake tugs and pulls at the lifeless coils, straightening the carcass for easier swallowing. King snakes have the unique ability to devour other snakes much longer than themselves. This king snake literally folds the rattlesnake in half within its stomach cavity. The bones, scales, and even rattles are completely digested. When it comes to animals that are dangerous to each other, one ferocious little creature comes to mind. Grasshopper mice are not known for their cuteness, but for their vicious disposition. This species breaks all the rules about rodents. It hunts and howls like a tiny wolf. Hardly bigger than a house mouse, this predator stalks and kills insects, poisonous snakes, even deadly scorpions. Grasshopper mice are not only carnivores, but cannibals. This stranger is lucky to escape with its life. The hungry mouse spies a tarantula and a scorpion. The toxins secreted by a tarantula's fangs are no more fatal than a bee sting, but the short bristles on its abdomen, which it combs off and throws, are extremely irritating to its enemies. Even so, the tarantula is no match for the deadly scorpion. The struggle between these arachnids draws the attention of two grasshopper mice. The sting of a scorpion can be fatal, even to humans. So how do these mice stand a chance? At first it looks like an easy victory for the scorpion, but the grasshopper mouse is also known as scorpion mouse, and this pair is not about to shirk their reputation. The first instinct is to go for the head. Another method is to attack the tail and bite off the stinger. One final furious struggle, and then the howl of victory is followed by a well-earned feast. Even though it is most natural for one species to be aggressive toward another, we humans have always thought ourselves immune from these belligerences. Far to the west, in the vast Pacific Ocean, pods of pilot whales roam the sea. Many experienced divers have made hundreds of dives around these enormous mammals without incident. They are usually very shy. But this time, off the coast of Hawaii, an experienced diver and an experienced cameraman are about to have a unique encounter. Instead of ignoring the diver as usual, this pilot whale seems curious and allows the diver to approach and even pet it, the first time ever in the wild. Perhaps she should have been alert to the odd behavior when the whale looks her straight in the eye. Suddenly, the whale lunges. It follows and grabs her by the leg, dragging her deeper and deeper. This remarkable footage reveals her struggle. Finally, she breaks free, leaving one of her swim fins on its way to the bottom of the ocean. No one can be sure, but it looked like the whale was just being playful. Pilot whales are, after all, carnivores. If it had wanted a meal, it could have snapped her leg like a matchstick and devoured it. Yet she suffered only a few cuts. How was the whale to know that its playmate needed to breathe a lot more often than it did? The frozen reaches of the north are home to a carnivore that has always been associated with danger, the polar bear. This 10-foot, ton-and-a-half beast has broken into houses looking for food, and even eaten family dogs. But what it likes most are seals and walrus. The bears will drift on ice floes hundreds of miles, just to make one a meal. But there is no denying that when they are being playful, like when this group encountered a tundra buggy, they are just plain cute. As cute as they are also enormously powerful. Even though playfulness or family quarrels are not usually harmful to each other, if that swipe of the paw or nip at the jaw is aimed at a human, that's another story. There have been several close human encounters with a polar bear named Binky here at the Anchorage, Alaska Zoo. I feel sorry for animals like Binky. The loneliness and boredom he must feel sometimes leads to incidents where the bear is only being playful, but simply doesn't know its own strength. Like this attack on an Australian tourist who gets too close to the cage while taking pictures.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Get a gun! Tranquilizer gun! Tranquilizer gun!
The tourist suffered serious injury. But this was not the only mauling for Binky. One young man wandered near the cage at night, after zoo hours.
He didn't seem to want to kill me or anything. Having tremendous scars on my legs for the rest of my life is going to remind me of this every time. And that's what's going to teach me a lesson.
Whether the captive animal was protecting his territory or just wanting to play, the human was the intruder and must take responsibility for his carelessness. Animals like these don't have animosity. They act on instinct, and sometimes their instinct is just to play. Whatever their instincts, wild animals like these Alaskan muskox are quick and violent at times and can be intimidating by their sheer size. This Arctic lemming is more than 1,000 times smaller than the ox and is in constant jeopardy from the massive hooves. Yet the muskox means no harm to the lemming. It is simply attending to its own agenda, finding a few shards of grass in this frozen land. We can learn a lot from encounters like these. Just because animals are wild and even deadly does not mean they intend harm. Animals can be at once silly and magnificent, and at the same time untouchably wild and touchingly tame. The concept of wild could be the most confusing of our animal ideas, and that could be a wild animal's greatest problem. It's up to us to find a way to accommodate their instincts so that we can all, great and small, occupy the same planet. I'm Marty Stauffer. Until next time, enjoy our wild America.
I'm Marty Stauffer. I'm often asked if there's one animal that's my favorite. Now that's a tough question. How does one choose between the raw power of a bison and the aerial grace of an eagle? Between the chromatic beauty of a bluebird and the stately grandeur of a swan? Between the clever tricks of a coyote and the playful antics of grizzly cubs? I can't. I find myself endeared to some animals for their lively cuteness, to others for their calm beauty, and to still others for their captivating behavior. The Wild America crew tried to narrow it down to just a few species, but we simply have too many favorites. The only thing to do is round up all the critters we like best, pick our favorite footage, and put it all together to bring you this special look at our favorite animals.
Imagine, if you will, the first awe-struck Europeans to set eyes on the American landscape. A seemingly endless wilderness lay before them. Forests of startling diversity, towering mountain ranges, vast rivers, torrid deserts, a frigid north country, and all of it populated with wildlife of breathtaking richness. Here on the Great Plains, early explorers marveled at the greatest herd of land animals ever assembled, the American bison, some 65 million strong. Slaughtered in the 1800s, they've recently been reintroduced in a number of locations. Here in Badlands National Park, they flourish. By midsummer, the tempo in the bison herd is increasing rapidly. Bulls, which are solitary most of the year, join the cows. This congregation marks the beginning of the rut. Bulls fight for the right to tend a female in estrus. Often, a cow will be pursued by a large group of eager bulls. They may chase her for miles in 100-degree temperatures. It seems like a costly method of reproduction, yet it ensures that the strongest bulls breed most of the cows. As with the bison, we find a similar process of regeneration when we look at my favorite member of the deer family.
The haunting call of bugling elk once rang across North America. They were the most widely distributed member of the deer family, about 10 million strong in the 1700s. As civilization spread westward, the great herds were exterminated. By the 1900s, 99% had vanished. Fortunately, some herds which lived in rugged mountains survived. When laws were passed to protect them and their habitat, they prospered once again. Today, elk roam the high country of most of our western states. Our story is centered around the Jackson Hole herd, which summers in Grand Teton and Yellowstone National Parks and in surrounding national forest and wilderness areas. And it's high in our western states that, with a keen eye, we can spot another of my favorite animals. By late November, bighorn sheep gather for their rut. Rams join into groups, sizing each other up with ritualized displays. This behavior establishes a dominance hierarchy for breeding privileges. Usually, the older rams in peak physical condition have the largest horns. They can often establish their dominance without having to fight to prove it. The famous head-clashing battles are quite rare, but when two evenly matched rams cannot settle a dispute by display, a fight may follow. The story of the American West has always involved a fight. But the next favorite uses brains instead of brawn to win its battles. As early pioneers carved a niche in the American landscape, most large predators lost their native habitats, with one exception, the coyote. Even in Yellowstone Park, the wolf is gone, and the coyote reigns as top dog in the ecosystem. Fortunately, Yellowstone escaped the pioneer's axe and remains a land of plenty. For the otter, there's always an abundance of food. And where there's food, this clever canine is not far away. Capable of outwitting almost any animal, the coyote is not above trying to steal the otter's fish. The otter delights in tempting the coyote with its catch of the day. The contest becomes more heated as a fellow opportunist arrives.
Crow Indians called it the trickster. Like the trickster, the otter is also a creature of wit and mischief. But suddenly, the otter has more trouble than it bargained for. Snatching the fish from the otter is only one small victory. To win the battle, he must keep it from the other coyotes. Hungry ravens await the scraps. In the end, dominance, not chance, dictates which contender claims the prize. Watching this drama, I understand better how these wily predators have survived against all odds. Perhaps our most graceful predator is our national symbol, the bald eagle. Of course, like the coyote, the eagle is not against stealing a meal. Because of such thievery, Ben Franklin wrote, "For my part, I wish the bald eagle had not been chosen as the representative of our country." Franklin's choice for the national symbol? The wild turkey. Cougars are only one of the turkey's predators. It's also hunted by hawks, owls, eagles, foxes, bobcats, and coyotes. To protect all that delicious breast meat, turkeys have excellent hearing and eyesight. They're the wariest of all game birds. And though large, they're not easy to catch. The turkey can take off quickly and fly up to 50 miles an hour for a short distance. Like all four types, these Merriams remain constantly alert. In any wild chase, the predator goes hungry 9 times out of 10. Here at Lahardy Rapids in Yellowstone Park, I went searching for fish, in this case, the cutthroat trout. I feel like an early explorer. They told of being able to reach right in and come out with a handful of trout. But the same slime-secreting glands that seal the fish's scales from bacteria also keep it from being caught too easily. What's it like being a fish, anyway? Guess I'll never know. Oh. Slippery, too. Come on. Uh-oh. Oh, up there.
Looks like Spike is hungry too. Looks like Spike is still hungry. You crazy goat. Don't you ever get enough? Support. Every youngster needs it. Let's take a look at Spike, the orphaned mountain goat that I raised with my children Luke and Hannah. As you'll see with Spike, and as with all wild young, it's parental care and inquisitive play that produce our favorite animal. Eating is one thing that comes naturally to a mountain goat. So is play. Here, on a steep face in their natural habitat, the kids never miss a chance for a snowy frolic. Like mountain goats, young deer also enjoy a good springtime romp. In a display of exuberance, these yearlings express the lightheartedness of the season. A new fawn is concentrating on eating. There's no distracting this baby for fun. The young deer chase and box one another, splashing the nearby adults as well. This play is serious business. It allows the young to practice skills they will need as adults. Soon everyone joins in the merriment.
Spring is also an opportune time to look in on a litter of bobcat kittens.
Blind and helpless at birth, within 10 days their eyes open and they follow their mother out of the den into the sunshine. A bobcat mother is devoted to her kittens, but she's quick to sense when it's time for them to learn the lessons of the wild. The mother twitches her bobbed tail as if beckoning her kittens to follow. But she soon leaves them alone to discover the world for themselves. For the kittens, everything is new and strangely inviting. Their instincts urge them to investigate this quick-moving weasel. Curiosity is the best teacher for any cat. Weasels may be small, but they're very feisty. The weasel's needle-sharp teeth and furious defense only serve to excite this kitten's equally aggressive nature. That is, until its sibling clumsily enters the act and gets nipped on the backside in the process. Finally, the kittens tire of the game, and the family moves on to other lessons.
And we'll move on to that most playful of weasels, the martin.
It's late summer. The graceful martin has laid claim to its own wilderness territory. Bursting with energy, it seems to jump for joy. I can hardly imagine an animal which looks any more alert than the martin. This beautiful, bright-eyed ball of fur probably weighs between 2 and 3 pounds. It stands only 7 inches tall and measures a little over 2 feet from the end of its bushy tail to the tip of its inquisitive black nose.
Of course, when I think of frolicking youth, I think grizz. The grizzly cub I raised, could it be, almost 20 years ago? More recently, my family played host to a couple of black bear cubs. It was an eye-opening experience, both for the cubs and for Hannah and Luke.
Are they fun, Luke? He likes it. He likes it. Forget it. Hi, Mikey. Squirt some more out. He's thirsty, I think.
The cubs are still bright-eyed and inquisitive. Like all animals, the skills these babies pick up in play, they'll use as adults. Slides, of course, aren't found in the wild, but a clever bear cub knows a good toy when it sees one. It's been an exciting day for all concerned, but let's look in on an earlier day and some of the cutest wild babies around, young cottontail rabbits. The tiny white blaze on their foreheads, so apparent now, will usually disappear in adulthood. In 2 short weeks, the young rabbits are on their own. They're more or less ready to explore a world full of strange and intriguing sights and mysterious creatures. The young sample a diet which will eventually consist of almost everything that grows, including poison oak and poison ivy. Cottontail babies aren't the only youngsters abroad on this warm, early spring day. My daughter, Hannah, and son, Luke, are enjoying an outing too, and are intrigued by anything that moves.
Oh, yeah.
Last spring.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And there aren't any dragonflies yet. Watch it. Watch it with your stick. Watch it with your stick. Watch it with your stick. Don't poke people.
Hey, Dad, look at the baby bunny.
Hannah spies this cute cottontail, one of the first newborns of the year. Incredibly soft, there are few animals as delightful for children to touch as a bunny.
Careful, be very careful with it. Let's see, show it to Luke.
Look at the bunny.
Baby. That's just a little baby.
Hi.
Let me see it. Let me see it. Oh, let me see it. Let me see it.
Oh, don't be afraid. Oh, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Oh, and those little feet. Those little feet are so great. The little claws. You need to learn how to hide better when nobody gets you. Good luck. Time for this wild baby to go home. When it comes to setting standards for natural beauty, man has often looked to our winged creatures to provide the visual examples. Come with us now, and it will be abundantly clear why. Among my favorite all-American birds is the scissor-tailed flycatcher. Its breeding grounds are in our central and southwestern states, but it has been known to wander as far east as Massachusetts. Whether courting, catching insects on the wing, or just soaring for the playful pleasure of it, these birds are true artists of the air and true Americans. The ring-necked pheasant is an immigrant to these parts, but its extravagant plumage makes it one of my favorites. A hungry bobcat spots the colorful cock and closes in on padded feet. The bobcat is a solitary prowler, stalking its quarry to within pouncing distance. The claws of its round paws are drawn back into sheaths, protecting them from wear. Rabbits and hares are the bobcat's main source of food, but it preys on almost any bird, mammal, or reptile it can catch. This versatile little feline has even been known to capture bats roosting in caves. Now the state bird of South Dakota, the ringneck is more than pretty, it's fast. And though the bobcat can take to the air, it can't fly. Once the heavy-bodied birds are launched, they have little to fear from the earthbound bobcat. And it is flight that dictates my next choice, the pelican, shown here in a seemingly choreographed takeoff. All the way east to Chesapeake Bay, we'll find the aerial displays of birds no less spectacular. These protected wetlands are the winter home of the tundra swan, formerly called the whistling swan. They've flown south from their Arctic nesting grounds to winter here with widgeons and other waterfowl on Maryland's eastern shore. There are many family groups made up of male and female which mate for life, and their cygnets from the previous spring. The male swans chase each other around. The purpose of these inter-family feuds is to strengthen and renew the bonds between male and female. To take a true measure of what pleases the eye, let's now look at what must surely set the standard for natural beauty. As we move now to the desert, we'll see that beauty can take on many guises. On hushed wings, the bats come, hovering over the beautiful blossoms, plunging their long tongues into the flower and gathering its sweet nectar. Pollen sticks to their furry faces and bodies, and as they travel and feed, they cross-pollinate the plants. Although many birds and insects visit these plants in the daylight hours, the flowers are only reproductively receptive at night. And so the long-nosed bat is the only species which ensures the future of these giants of the desert. I'm often amazed at how some animals display beauty. It is, for instance, a bizarre courtship dance that inspires the sage grouse of the high plains. Their size and design make their display especially magnificent. Greenish-yellow air sacs bulge, pulsate, and pop. 20 spotted tail feathers fan like a majestic Indian headdress. Elongated filiplumes along the neck flutter in the sage-scented early morning breeze. Battles for the hens consist of shoving and wing beating. In the end, the majority of the females mate with the most dominant cock. In slow motion, the intricate pattern of air sac inflation is one of the most amazing sights in all of nature. Because sage grouse have no muscular gizzard, they're limited to foraging on soft food like sagebrush. In fall and winter, hardy sagebrush bushes, which are evergreen, may supply virtually 100% of the sage grouse's diet.
Farming and ranching practices have resulted in widespread destruction of sagebrush, which has caused a corresponding decline in sage-grouse populations. By mid-morning, the flock has flown off to feed, leaving a master cock and his hen alone on the lek.
Now back to a more conventional beauty. Perhaps the most well-loved bird in America is the bluebird.
Okay, now do you know how to whistle for him? All right.
Last summer, Hannah and Luke set out to raise a pair of kestrel falcons and earned some gratifying results.
Good work. Good work.
With each passing day, the birds are growing stronger, and the children more confident of their ability to train them. Our kestrels begin to exhibit the flying skills for which falcons are famous. Flying to a glove for food is easy compared to catching prey. The birds need to make the transition. But can they? The word raptor means to snatch or seize, as with talons. Hannah's female chose a crystal clear summer morning to prove she is a raptor.
Picking favorites is never easy, but in the end, it's a lot of fun. It helps us to recognize the startling diversity of life in the wild, and it reminds us of the rich heritage of our continent. Whether we favor bears or bluebirds, cottontails or coyotes, we're certain to find plenty of room in our hearts for our favorite animals. I'm Marty Stauffer. Until next time, enjoy our wild America.
The origin of birds is cloudy. Their exact lineage is lost in prehistory. But most experts believe that the trail leads back to certain theropod dinosaurs. So when we observe a bird, like this green heron, snatching its prey, we're probably peeking into the looking glass of time and seeing what avian dinosaurs were like. Birds are still similar to reptiles, with scales on their feet and legs, and modified scales, feathers, on their bodies, in a variety of styles and colors. Sometime in history, these hollow-boned, feathered creatures evolved an amazing ability that we humans envy to this day: the miracle of flight. It's hard to believe that these scruffy little herons will soon escape the bonds of Earth like their parents before them. I'm Marty Stauffer. Join me as we explore the wonderful world of wild wings. Arguably, the most fascinating thing about birds is their ability to fly. It is theorized that flight may have started with gliding, similar to the so-called flying squirrel. The squirrel has a membrane that simply catches the wind, allowing it to sail from tree to tree. But, as in the case of this squirrel, the lack of an ability to lift its body into the air poses a severe disadvantage. Gravity shapes the lives of all earthbound creatures. Enter the winged wonders. This bluebird, unlike the rest of us, can defy gravity. Birds enjoy ultimate freedom. They can soar for hours with hardly a wing beat, or hover on wings beating 80 times per second. Hummingbirds are the smallest feathered flyers. Hummers are best known for their brilliant colors. Audubon once described them as glittering fragments of the rainbow. These tiny creatures comprise the second largest family of birds in the New World, with over 300 species. Ironically, their vocal talents do not match their dazzling appearance. Most do not even sing. They don't walk much either. These birds live in the air. This Anna's hummingbird was filmed at normal speed, 24 frames per second. Its wings beat 80 times per second. At a camera speed of 1500 frames per second, 1/60th real time, the actions of its rotating wing and darting tongue are more easily observed. Its tongue is tubular, forked and fringed at the tip for gathering nectar from deep inside the blossom. Filmed even slower, at 1/100th real time, a hummingbird is seen as a marvel of nature's engineering. Constantly moving, the birds take in at least half their weight in food daily. A human, expending the same amount of energy, would require 150,000 calories a day. Humans love hummers. At one Arizona location, 50 pint bottles were filled twice a day to serve an estimated 5,000 hummingbirds. Perhaps these lovely creatures accept our presence easily because they've suffered little at our hand. Except for a brief period in the 19th century when the tiny birds were fashionable adornments on ladies' hats, humans and hummingbirds have lived harmoniously. People are fascinated by birds, all birds. There are an estimated 8,600 species of birds to watch, and millions of birders are keeping an eye and ear on this colorful collection. Songbirds are especially popular, maybe because of their beautiful music, nature's symphony. Some birds are not only singers, but conservationists as well. High in our remote Rockies, the Clark's nutcracker lives on its primary diet of whitebark pine seeds. Unlike most other trees, the whitebark has seeds which lack a membrane wing that allows them to escape and disperse on their own. The nutcracker eats some of the seeds on the spot, but many are cached to be retrieved in the winter or spring. This unwitting forester carefully buries up to 30,000 seeds a season, more than it usually needs to survive the winter. Some of the remaining seeds germinate among the rocks into seedlings. Without the nutcracker's help, the whitebark pine might, in time, disappear. Other birds are conservationists in other ways. As airborne fishers, they help keep the aquatic population of lakes and streams in balance. We are out on Yellowstone Lake in Wyoming to observe the birds that thrive here on cutthroat trout. White pelicans arrive in early spring to feed on the trout, when ice and snow still blanket some of the park. Their synchronized liftoff is an unforgettable sight. The bald eagle also feeds on cutthroat. This rare hunter finds sanctuary here, one of the few remaining places it nests. I feel lucky just to glimpse this symbol of our country, so I'm not prepared for what I witness next. As with other predators, the bald eagle's catch ratio is low, only about 1 fish in 10 tries, so it takes repeated attempts to succeed. From the boat, I sight another aerial hunter nesting atop a nearby tree, the osprey. The osprey is first and foremost a fish eater, earning it the name fishhawk. Its preferred prey in Yellowstone is immature cutthroat trout. As the male leaves the nest to hunt, we prepare to follow this awesome bird. With legendary hawk eyes, it sights a trout from high above the water. But as with the bald eagle, only about 1 out of a number of dives results in a catch. The larger female repairs the nest while the male tries again. We're filming at 300 frames per second. This action is slowed down 12 times. Watch the osprey's plunge dive. It folds its wings and extends its talons just before hitting the water. The bird bounces back to the surface, then, using its tail as a rudder, rises wet and heavy into the air. Although the greatest percentage of the osprey's catch are immature fish, this one is adult size. Perhaps growing families require larger fish. The male has taken a moment in mid-flight to align the trout head first, making it more aerodynamic. Our dawn to dusk observations over the course of a week revealed these ospreys averaging one fish per family per day. This one is finally caught after 5 to 10 dives.
Okay, and move back slow. Move back about.
As with all youngsters, young birds of prey must be taught to hunt and must practice.
Okay, now you hold up the glove and you can show her the meat.
Our daughter Hannah and son Luke learned this lesson along with the young kestrels they rescued and are raising. I helped them to teach the juvenile kestrels how to fly to prey by using falconry techniques perfected in the Middle Ages.
You see, now what we'll do is we'll just practice flying her farther and farther, her, and Luke's male, and strengthening their wings. You see, the farther we fly them, you need to hold on to the meat. See, because if she flies away with the meat, she won't come back. Can you see why she comes to us? She comes to us just for the meat. And so we'll practice flying her farther and farther. Ouch, ouch. That's what the glove is for. Okay, hold that down in there. Hide it down in there.
I don't have it.
Hide it. Okay, have you got it now?
No.
Okay, okay. And we'll practice
Good.
flying her farther and farther, and then finally she'll learn how to hunt. And then we'll turn her loose. Okay. Up. You want to call him back down out of the tree?
Yeah.
Here, come here by me. Let's put a little piece of meat on your glove. Okay, now do you know how to whistle for him?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Hold up your glove. Good work. Good work.
With each passing day, the birds grow stronger, and the children more confident of their ability to train them. Even though they are attached to the birds, they know that these kestrels must live free. With the knowledge of how to hunt, the birds soar away.
Bye. There she goes.
Birds of prey evolved with the perfection of their hunting tools. Long, sharp talons are adapted for grasping. These winged marvels are also equipped with sophisticated eyes, enabling them to spot species as small as a squirrel 3 miles away. Another tool in their arsenal is the shape and size of the wing and tail. The long, pointed wings of a gyrfalcon are designed for speed and maneuverability in the open. The goshawk relies on short wings and a long tail when maneuvering around tree trunks and between branches to catch its quarry. It's easy to see why these lords of the air command the wild blue yonder. Much smaller in size, but every bit as aggressive as its larger cousins, is the northern shrike. Technically, it's not a bird of prey. It's a passeriform, or perching bird. This is the largest order of birds. The shrike's diet includes insects, reptiles, and even rodents. Its small feet and beak are not well designed for such work, so it waits for an opening and kills the mouse quickly. It then exhibits its most well-known habit. It carries its prey off to a larder, where the food is impaled on a thorn or other spiked object. This behavior has earned it the nickname butcher bird. With its meal in a secure position for tearing, the shrike makes up for weak feet and tiny talons. The stash is also well protected and easily accessible for feeding its nestlings. Because of its switch from songbird to hunter, the shrike is not very well liked, but its presence is essential in keeping insect and rodent populations under control. Here in our Northwest reside two engaging examples of an unusual aspect of birds, the range of their courtship displays. These rituals evolved to ensure that an individual would mate only with members of its own species. While birds are best known for their songs, many of the auditory signals used for these displays are actually produced by their bills, wings, tails, or feet. Like many male birds, the ruffed grouse cock establishes his territory, but he does not sing. Instead, he drums. the drumming sound carries through the trees to reach the female. Forest species must often use noisy displays to attract a mate. Sometimes these flashy rituals attract not only mates, but predators as well. Even so, as in the case of this Franklin's grouse, nature compels them to perform their mating contest. These males also have distinct territories where they compete for a female's attention by jumping out of a tree and flapping their wings in a special way, a flutter flight. Slow motion reveals this unusual technique. Finally, after days and even weeks of this behavior, the hen selects a cock and joins him in his territory. But the male is not done yet. He now finishes his performance by dazzling her with the tail flick. And when courting time arrives on the prairie, the sharp-tailed grouse really shakes its tail feathers. The beauty of bird courtship rituals has inspired humans for centuries. Whether on the ground or flirting majestically in the air like these ravens, birds give meaning to the phrase, "grace on the wing." Whether courting seriously or soaring joyfully, these scissor-tailed flycatchers, like other birds, are true artists in an aerial ballet. Romantic mourning doves are a widespread species with an interesting pairing behavior. To win the attention of a female, a courting male first sings a lonesome song. Yet it takes more than just a lyrical voice to prove his pedigree. A male dove then demonstrates his strength and stamina by chasing the female. Females may even encourage this behavior, as if to test their suitor's ability to protect the nest. Once his advances are accepted, the male's courtship strategy changes dramatically, from aggressive to tender. After the doves pair up, the male goes to work collecting twigs for the nest. Mated for life, it's touching to see these doves strengthen the pair bond as they work together to construct their nest. While the mourning dove builds a typical cup nest from small twigs, other bird nests come in a dizzying array of shapes, sizes, and styles, from the hummingbird's tiny woven thimble of lichen to the bald eagle's huge fort of branches weighing over a ton. It is believed that the first avian dinosaurs probably made nests that were simply hollows on the ground. In our desert Southwest, some birds, like this scaled quail, still do. The great disadvantage to this simple nest was, and is, vulnerability to a large number of dangers, like this Gila monster. We can imagine similar events involving those early flightless birds. I'm sure they had to sometimes stand aside, just as this hen does, and watch those precious eggs being eaten. Over the millennia, birds became better at flying and began to use natural tree cavities as nests. As competition for this limited resource grew, some birds developed specialized skills and constructed their own homes. This downy woodpecker's hard, pointed beak makes it possible to undertake this daunting task. Most birds did not develop the skills to build their nest inside trees, but high on the tree instead. By nesting in trees, many species, like this robin, can avoid ground-dwelling predators like skunks or snakes. But there is little a robin can do to avoid climbers, like the red squirrel. Despite squirrels and a few other tree-climbing mammals, nesting high off the ground still has its benefits. In fact, fossil evidence suggests that the remarkable diversity of bird nests was in response to the evolution of mammalian predators. Sometimes, however, it is a bird which creates nesting problems for other birds. The cowbird has one of the most unusual nesting habits of all. Instead of building its own nest, it lays its eggs in the nests of others, a behavior called brood parasitism. Originally, cowbirds inhabited only the Great Plains. They specialized in feeding on insects flushed up by the enormous roving herds of bison. As the bison moved, so did the cowbirds, making it impossible for them to stay in one place long enough to build nests and raise young. Today, they more often follow our domestic livestock. Though their food source is not as transient, their parasitic instinct remains. Cardinals and other songbirds are frequently parasitized. When a female cowbird visits another bird's nest, she eats or destroys one egg. Then she lays one of her own. A cowbird may lay up to 40 eggs in various nests each breeding season. Even so, studies show that only about one of these eggs ever reach adulthood. And though only one egg is laid per nest, this habit has caused serious population declines in some songbirds. The cowbird's larger, more aggressive nestlings often dominate the food supply. While some hosts reject the foreign egg, others raise the cowbird nestling at the expense of their own young. One of the most endearing qualities of our feathered friends is a tireless devotion to their nestlings. The time and attention avian parents spend on their offspring is almost unbelievable. Some of the smaller insect-eating songbirds make up to 1,000 trips a day to feed their family, with duties shared by male and female. Some nestlings are totally dependent on their parents for everything, requiring pre-digested food and other special care until they develop. In others, moments after freeing themselves from their shells, the youngsters are ready to face the world. These Gambel's quail chicks, when only hours old, can already forage for insects, seeds, and fruit without any adult help. But just because they can doesn't mean they must. Many hatchlings, like these little prairie chickens, are imprinted on their mother. There is a close bond between them. Almost all birds raise their young as single parents or as pairs. An unusual exception to this can be found in the rolling live oak foothills of California's Sierra Mountains. The acorn woodpecker, unlike most of its kind, lives in colonies of a dozen or so individuals. It hatches its young in a communal nest and raises its young as a group. In spring, it feeds its young on food it has stored in a most unusual fashion. While a few other woodpeckers do store food, for the acorn woodpecker, hoarding is big business. It's a cooperative venture, with each member of the clan getting into the act. While this male hacks out a hole in the colony's storage tree or granary, one of his clansmen gathers an acorn to fill it. it flies toward the cache with the undulating up and down motion typical of woodpeckers. Not content to stuff only the trunk, these acrobats even hang upside down to pack the branches. Guarded over many generations, a single granary may contain as many as 50,000 storage holes. Most birds have evolved nesting strategies to help protect the young by making their nests difficult to reach. An intriguing example resides in our western states. This stream-side songster builds a distinctive domed nest on sheer rock faces, behind waterfalls, or on midstream boulders. The water ouzel, or dipper, feeds its young by foraging in streams for small fish, insects, and larvae. The fascinating thing about this songbird is that it has an almost fish-like ability to swim underwater. Diving into icy mountain streams, the ouzel uses its wings to propel itself. Its feet are far from flippers, and its wings are far from fins, but they do the job. Able to cover its eyes with clear upper lids and close its nostrils while submerged, this little aquanaut is as at home underwater as it is on land. And when the dipper flies back to the nest, its feathers are already dry, protected by a natural oil that waterproofs its plumage. Indeed, there's probably only one disadvantage to having feathers. Whether waterproofing its feathers from a gland near its tail like this hooded merganser, or bathing to get rid of excess oil or parasites in water, or in dust, like this Gambel's quail, the feathers of all birds need constant care. One of the most peculiar and little-known methods birds use to rid their feathers of parasites is a technique called anting. This blue jay has found a backyard ant nest. When disturbed, ants secrete formic acid as a chemical defense. Somehow, birds discovered that formic acid is a natural pesticide against mites and other avian irritants. Eventually, this technique caught on. Over 200 bird species use ants to disinfect their feathers. This gardener keeps away troublesome rabbits and voles by scattering mothballs among her flowers. The odor of mothballs not only repels garden pests, it attracts birds. Grackles have been known to use the acrid-smelling balls as a substitute for ants. Turkey vultures in the Dakota Badlands help to maintain their feathers by spreading out magnificent wings to absorb warmth from the early morning sun. Soon the thermals arrive, allowing them to survey their domain. Besides the obvious benefits of wing and tail feathers for flight, most birds make good use of the many other types of feathers on their bodies. The camouflage-colored feathers of the willow ptarmigan, so hard to see in autumn, have turned snowy white in winter. Burying themselves in a drift provides them a warm haven during blizzards and the bone-chilling cold nights, while their feathers act as added insulation. For ptarmigan, white feathers and snow are a life-saving combination. Ptarmigan have also adapted to snow in other ways. Feathered feet act as snowshoes and also conserve body heat. But certainly, the most valuable benefit of their seasonal coloration is as camouflage against would-be predators. This Arctic wolf is searching for a meal. Even though it's at a distance, its presence makes the ptarmigan nervous. As the wolf comes closer, the flock separates and each bird searches out a hiding place. Instinctively, they use the matching background which nature has provided, the snow, to avoid approaching danger. White blending perfectly on white, the motionless ptarmigan become part of the landscape. the avian world, survival is often a matter of instinctive self-control. The gyrfalcon is the largest member of the falcon family and the one best adapted to the Arctic. Ptarmigan are its primary prey. The gyrfalcon's flight looks effortless, as if evolution had done all the work. Ironically, the ptarmigan can escape only by remaining perfectly still. But the gyr is a skilled stalker and often flies low to the ground to surprise and flush its quarry. For some reason, this ptarmigan's instinct to freeze in the face of danger gives way to fearful flight. Circling the ptarmigan, the gyrfalcon moves in. We have always been fascinated by birds. They inhabit every corner of the earth and come in all shapes and sizes. We admire their form and elegance, the way they fulfill their natural roles. We use them to describe ourselves, my fine feathered friend, singing like a lark, free as a bird. Countless stories and fairy tales have been told about birds, and many superstitions surround them. Even today, they remain a large part of our culture. We can study the science, even the ecology of birds, but nothing short of seeing these wondrous creatures can come close to describing their mystical attraction. And what's more, unlike us earthbound creatures, they can fly on wild wings. I'm Marty Stauffer. Until next time, enjoy our wild America.